It began in the dark, a tiny shoe, lying in the wet grass. No child, no footprints, no sound. And above the quiet town of Red Creek, a shape drifted through the clouds, black, silent, waiting. A voice, not human, whispered from somewhere. Far above, target secured. But something was wrong. These weren't just any human children. Police sirens sliced through the night, red and blue lights splashing against brick walls. Parents screamed names into the cold air. First, little Emily vanished on her way home from school. Then, twin brothers, Josh and Liam, simply didn't come back from the park. 3 children, gone, all before the sun came up. The sheriff's voice cracked as he barked orders. Search every yard, every house, every car. I want roadblocks. On every highway. His deputies ran through backyards, flashlights sweeping the shadows. Dogs barked, sensing something unseen. But it wasn't just a normal night in Red Creek. On the edge of town, the playground stood empty. The swings still swayed, as if someone had just jumped off them. And there, in the dirt beneath the slide, were strange dark marks. Circles burned into the ground. They weren't from fire. They weren't from anything the police had ever seen. By 4 a.m., the small military outpost on Red Creek's northern ridge was on full alert. Inside the control room, green dots pulsed on the radar. Lieutenant Harris leaned forward, squinting. What the hell is that? Sergeant Vega tapped the screen. Energy spikes, coming from the forest. Readings are off the charts. It be weather? Harris asked, though his voice said he already knew the answer. Vega shook her head. No storm, no planes, and these spikes, they're moving. In the forest itself, the air shimmered. Sound like 1,000 whispers layered over each other rolled through the trees. High above, hidden behind the stars, a ship drifted. In low orbit, sleek, silent, a predator in the dark. Inside its cold metal corridors, a Zerlin officer knelt before a glowing console. His long fingers danced over the controls, replaying the night's events. Holographic images of the children flickered in the air. Scared faces, wide eyes. Extraction successful, he said. His voice like glass scraping stone. 3. Specimens secured. Behind him, another alien froze. Its pale eyes widened in disbelief. You took human juveniles? Officer turned, confused. Yes, as ordered. The other alien's face twisted in something close to fear. You, fool. Do you have any idea what you've done? Back on Earth, parents refused to go home. Mothers clutched photographs to their chests. Fathers paced, fists clenched, desperate to fight something, anything. Reporters swarmed the scene. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. Is this connected? To the disappearances last year? Are we dealing with a kidnapper or something else? Has the FBI been called in? But no one dared speak the word that some were already thinking. Aliens. At 5:12 a.m., the military recon team rolled into the forest in black, unmarked trucks. They moved silently, scanning with strange, humming devices. Corporal Price crouched by a patch of scorched leaves. These burn marks are cold. Harris joined him, touching the blackened ground, like the heat was. Pulled out over the radio, Vega's voice came sharp. Movement above the canopy, 30 meters up. The team froze. Slowly, they looked up. For a second, they saw nothing. Then, a faint ripple in the air. Something huge, cloaked, watching. A sudden pulse of light flashed, blinding them. When their vision cleared, the sky was empty. On the Zyralin ship, the children sat together in a small, dimly lit chamber. Emily hugged her knees, trying not to cry. The twins whispered to each other, eyes darting to the strange walls that seemed to breathe slowly like a sleeping creature. The door slid open without a sound. A tall alien entered, its skin shimmering like oil in water. It scanned them with a device that beeped rapidly. Then it stopped, and the alien's face darkened. No, 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 it whispered. It backed out of the room, muttering in its own language, words the children couldn't understand. But the tone, was pure fear. In the Red Creek Command Center, General Reyes arrived by helicopter. He stepped into the war room, his eyes scanning the radar feeds, heat maps, and satellite images. "Talk to me," he ordered. Harris pointed to a live feed from an orbital telescope. "Sir, we caught a shadow. It's not natural." The image showed stars, and against them, a black outline moving slowly. Reyes narrowed his eyes. "That's no plane. That's no asteroid either." Vega swallowed. "Whatever it is, it's still here." At dawn, the missing children's faces appeared on every TV and phone screen in the country. News anchors warned parents to keep children indoors. Social media exploded with theories. Some blamed human traffickers. Others whispered about UFOs. But the truth was already high above Earth, locked in a steel chamber, where one alien paced back and forth, realizing something terrible. Humans were dangerous, even the young ones, and taking them might start a war the parents didn't know yet, the military didn't know yet. But in the cold silence of space, deep inside the alien ship, the seeds of fear had been planted, not in the humans, but in the aliens themselves, because humans fight for their young and nothing in the galaxy survives that. It was not a prison. It was not a home. It was something else. Cold walls that moved, like they were breathing. And in the center of the small metal room, 3 human children sat, staring at a door that had no handle. A soft hum filled the air. Then a shadow passed over the doorway. It slid open without a sound. The alien that entered was taller than the doorframe, skin shimmering like oil in water, its eyes pale and unblinking. It raised a small device that beeped faster and faster when pointed at them. The alien froze. Its expression changed, not curiosity, but fear. On the bridge of the Xyrelon vessel, Captain Viren reviewed the latest scans. Holograms hovered. In the air, Earth's forests, towns, military movements. A younger officer approached, specimens secured, awaiting next instructions. Viren didn't look up. "Excellent. Prepare containment transport to research sector." But across the bridge, a different officer, tall, thin, with gray skin marked by deep lines, turned sharply. "You took humans?" The young officer hesitated. "Human juveniles, yes, 3 of them." Silence fell over the bridge. The older officer stepped forward, voice low and urgent. "Do you know what humans are capable of? Even the smallest ones?" The younger one looked confused. "They are primitive. Is this not why we study them?" Viren's pale eyes narrowed. "Enough. The High Council requested living subjects for evaluation. It will be contained." But deep inside, Viren remembered the old stories. Stories told in the dark. About the first time the Xyrelon encountered humans, it had ended badly. It's very badly. The children didn't know any of this. Emily sat against the wall, clutching her knees, whispering to herself to stay calm. Josh, the older twin, pressed his ear to the wall, listening for footsteps. Liam stared at the strange ceiling, where tiny lights pulsed like slow heartbeats. When the alien left, they whispered in low voices. "Where are we?" Emily asked. "Not on Earth," Josh said, his voice shaking. "How do you know?" Liam asked. Josh glanced toward the sealed door. "Because the air smells different, and because we're not supposed to be here." Far above them, the Xyrelon ship drifted in low orbit. Its engines made no sound. Its cloak bent the light around it, hiding it from Earth's telescopes. But inside, something was stirring. Not everyone on board agreed with what had been done. Zira, the alien who had scanned the children, moved quickly through the ship's lower corridors. She ignored the curious stares of crew members. When she reached the communication chamber, she sealed the door and activated a private channel. A grainy hologram appeared, another Xyrelon, older, with eyes like molten silver. "You took human children," the hologram hissed. "I didn't take them," Zero said quickly. "Viren did. But you know the risk." "Yes," the hologram replied. "And if they realize what's been done?" The signal crackled. "And get rid of them." before it's too late. Back in the containment room, Emily tried to stay brave, but her stomach hurt from fear. Liam had fallen asleep, his head on his brother's shoulder. Then, a sound. The wall to their left rippled, and a small panel slid open. A round metal object rolled into the room. It looked like a toy. But when it lit up and began to project strange shapes into the air, the children backed away. A voice, soft, artificial, spoke in a language they couldn't understand. Then slowly it shifted until it spoke English. "Do not be afraid." Emily gasped. Who are you?" "I am a translation drone," it said. "You are aboard a Xyrelon research vessel. You have been taken by aliens?" Josh asked. "Yes," the drone said simply. Liam, now wide awake, asked the only question that mattered to him. "Are we going home?" The drone hesitated. "Unknown." On the bridge, alarms chimed. "Captain," a crew member reported, unidentified. "Objects detected on the far side of Earth's orbit." Viren turned sharply. "Earth ships?" The officer checked. "No, not Earth. Another faction." Viren's eyes narrowed. "Cloak the ship. Crease orbit distance. Do not engage." But Zira, watching from her station, felt the tension rising. She knew the presence of those other ships meant only one thing. The humans weren't the only ones who would be looking for the children. Hours passed. The children were given strange food. Small glowing cubes that tasted faintly sweet and water that shimmered like liquid silver. Emily didn't want to eat, but Josh said we need strength in case we have to run. Didn't know that someone on the ship was already thinking the same thing. Zira returned to their room when the hall was empty. She stepped inside slowly, the door sealing behind her. The children huddled together. "You must listen," she said, her voice low. "You are in great danger here, not just from my people, but from others who may come for you." "Then take us home," Josh said immediately. Zira looked at him for a long moment. "It is not that simple. The captain. He has orders from the High Council. You are important to them." Emily's voice shook. "Why? We're just kids." Zira's eyes softened for a moment. She looked almost human. "Because even your young are dangerous." The children didn't understand what she meant, but they could see she believed it. In another section of the ship, Captain Viren addressed his officers. "The humans will remain here until we reach the rendezvous point. The Council wants them alive." One officer frowned. "And if Earth comes for them?" Viren's thin mouth curved in a cold smile. "They won't find us." But far below, Zira knew that wasn't true. Humans always find what they are looking for. That night, if you could call it night on a ship in space, the children were awakened by a deep rumble. The walls trembled, lights flickered. The drone rolled out from its charging station and spoke quickly. "Proximity alert. Another vessel is approaching, larger, armed." Josh's eyes went wide. "Is it the army?" From Earth, the drone's lights dimmed. Not from Earth. Emily clutched Liam's hand. "Then, who?" On the bridge, chaos erupted. "Captain, incoming transmission." Viren's voice was sharp. "From who?" The officer's face was pale. "It's the Drakth. They demand we surrender the humans." Room went silent. The Drakth were feared across the stars. And they did not ask twice. Viren stood very still. "Activate all shields. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Tell them. The humans are not negotiable." In the children's room, the door suddenly hissed open. Zira stood there, breathing fast. "You must come with me now." Josh stepped forward. "Why? What's happening?" "There is no time," Zira said, her voice urgent. "If the Drakth get you, Earth will never see you again." She motioned for them to follow. Emily hesitated. "Are you helping us?" Zira's eyes flickered toward the ceiling as if listening to distant footsteps. "Yes, but you must trust me." Josh grabbed Liam's hand. Emily followed close behind, and for the first time since they were taken, the children stepped out of the room and into the long, dark corridors of the alien ship. The war room was silent until General Reyes slammed his fist on the table. They took our children, and they think we won't come for them. No one spoke. He leaned forward, his voice cold and certain. We have one shot. We either bring them home, or they vanish into the stars forever. And somewhere in the shadows above Earth, the aliens were already preparing for a fight. It had been less than 24 hours since the disappearances in Red Creek. The small town had become a fortress. Military trucks blocked every road. Soldiers scanned the skies with strange devices. But while the media told the public nothing, inside a hidden mountain base, the truth was being shown on giant screens. Satellite images. Thermal scans. A shape massive, cloaked, moving just beyond Earth's orbit. General Reyes stood at the center of the room, surrounded by his top officers. Lena Armitage, a civilian hacker brought in under a special order, sat at a terminal, fingers flying over the keys. "I'm catching fragments," she said. "Alien comes, scrambling, rerouting." She stopped. Her eyes widened. "What?" Reyes asked. "They're not the only ones out there." On the big screen, 3 more objects appeared, moving fast. Not toward Earth, but toward the alien ship holding the kids, miles above the atmosphere. In the black silence of space, the Zerlin vessel drifted on its hidden path. Its captain, Viron, paced the bridge. Glaring at the approaching signals, Drakth vessels, his first officer confirmed. 3 of them. Heavy weapons. "Send a warning," Viron said. The message was short. The reply was even shorter. "Surrender." The humans, in the bowels of the ship, Zira hurried the children through a narrow maintenance tunnel. The air was colder here, the walls covered in pulsing blue lines. "Where are we going?" Josh whispered. "Somewhere the Drakths can't find you," Zira said without looking back. Emily glanced at Liam, who was struggling to keep up. "Why? Do they want us?" Zira didn't answer. Her pace quickened. Back on Earth, Lena leaned closer to her screen. "I've got it," she said. "I cracked their transmission code. Listen to this." The speakers, filled with a harsh, guttural language, "Translate," Reyes ordered. The computer's synthetic voice came through. 3 human juveniles. Strategic value high. Delivery to Drakth 4 Council will ensure victory in sector conflict. Reyes's jaw tightened. "They're not science experiments. They're bargaining chips." The general turned to his operations chief. "Scramble the interceptors. I want our fastest ships in the air in 10 minutes. "But sir," the officer began, "if they detect us, they will detect us." Reyes cut him off.
"The question
"Is whether we hit them hard enough to make them let go before they can run." The interceptors were nothing the public knew about. Black as space, silent as shadows. They could climb from a hidden runway into low orbit in less than 4 minutes. Inside, the lead craft commander Hayes ran final checks. All systems green. Target locked. The order came through his headset. Launch. Up in space, the Zyralon bridge lit up with proximity alerts. Captain human vessels detected. Viren's eyes narrowed. "They're faster than expected. Do we engage?" his first officer asked. Viren didn't answer immediately. He was watching the readings. Watching the human ships close the gap. "They want their young back," he said softly, "and they will not stop." In the tunnel, Zira paused, listening to the distant sound of muffled explosions. She turned to the children. "Stay here. Do not move, no matter what you hear." Josh frowned. "Where are you going?" "To make sure you are not on this ship when the fighting starts." And before they could stop her, she was gone. The Drakth ships reached firing range first. A blinding lance of energy cut through the darkness, smashing into the Zerlon shields. The ship shuddered. Lights flickered. Viren gripped the command rail. Return fire. Green beams lanced out, striking one Drakth vessel and sending it spinning. But the other 2 kept coming. Below, in the maintenance tunnel, the children heard the impact, a deep, booming thud that made the floor tilt under them. Emily grabbed Liam. "We can't just sit here." Josh looked both ways down the tunnel. "This way," he he said, picking the path that sloped upward. They ran, on Earth. In the war room, Lena tracked the battle in real time. "They're firing at each other," she said. "Zerlon and Drakth, neither side's backing down." Reyes stared at the data. "Where are our ships?" 2 minutes to intercept," an officer replied. "Tell them to target the Drakth. We'll deal with the Zyralin later." Commander Hayes' voice crackled over the comms. "Locking onto Drakth engines. Going hot." Twin bursts of missiles streaked out from the interceptors, trailing blue fire. Both found their mark, tearing through one of the Drakth's ships and sending debris tumbling into space. The remaining Drakth vessels turned and opened fire on the humans. Viren watched the exchange, calculating. The humans were fighting the Drake, not the Zerlon. That could be useful. "Bring us closer to the humans," he ordered. "Shields toward the Drakth." His officers looked at him in shock. "Do it," Viren said. "For now, our enemy's enemy is our ally." In the tunnel, the children finally reached a hatch. Josh slammed the release. It opened into a narrow bay filled with strange, egg-shaped pods. "What are they?" Emily asked. "Escape pods," Josh guessed. "Maybe." Before they could decide, the hatch behind them hissed open. 2 towering figures stepped through, not Zerlon. Their armor was black and jagged. Their eyes glowed red. "Drakth thought." Emily froze. "Ah," Liam whimpered. Josh stepped in front of them. One Drakth tilted its head. "Human young." "Come." "I know, Josh," said the Drakth, reached for him. But before its clawed hand could close, a blast of energy tore through its chest. The second Drakth turned just in time to be hit by another shot. Zero stepped into view, weapon in hand. "Move," she barked. They scrambled into one of the pods. "At!" Zero slammed the hatch shut and hit the controls. The pod shook, then shot away from the ship, spinning toward the distant curve of Earth inside. The children clung to their seats. Zero's voice was calm but urgent. "Stay strapped in. This will not be gentle." On the Zyralon bridge, Viren saw the pod. On his scanners, he knew immediately what it was. "Who launched that?" he demanded. No one answered. Viren's eyes narrowed. "Zero." In Earth's war room, alarms sounded. Unidentified object. Entering atmosphere. Small. Fast. Reyes leaned over the display. Trajectory. Heading straight for North American sector. Impact in 6 minutes. Reyes turned to Lena. "Tell Hayes to cover it. Nothing touches that pod." In the blackness of space, the battle raged on. Zerlin and human ships holding off the Drakth together. For now, but far below, a small escape pod blazed through the upper atmosphere, trail of fire behind it. Inside, 3 frightened human children and 1 alien braced for the landing that could mean rescue or disaster. The pod hit the ground so hard, the air was knocked from their lungs. A long groan of metal, a hiss of steam, and then silence. Josh unbuckled first, pulling Emily and Liam free. They were alive. But they were not safe, because outside the cracked window shadows moved. It had taken only seconds for the crash site to be found, not by humans, not by soldiers, but by something else. Shapes, too tall, too thin. Moving with a strange insect-like twitch, their eyes glowed faintly. Red dot Drakth dot inside. The pod Zira was already on her feet. She pressed a button on her wrist, and a panel slid open in the wall, revealing a sleek, black weapon. She turned to the children. "When I open this door, you run, understand?" Emily's voice shook. "Where? Doesn't matter. Just away from me. I'll draw them off." Josh clenched his fists. "We're not leaving you." Zira's gaze softened for a heartbeat, then hardened again. "Do as I say." Duh. The door hissed open. Zira was out first, weapon flashing. To Drakth. Fell instantly. "Go." She shouted. The children bolted into the trees. The forest swallowed them. The air was damp, thick with the smell of moss and rain. Every sound, a snapped twig, a distant rustle, made Emily flinch. Liam was panting hard. Where are we going? Scanned the shadows. Just keep moving. Back at the pod, Zira fought like a whirlwind, but more Drakth were coming. She knew she couldn't hold them forever. A plasma bolt grazed her shoulder, spinning her to the ground as the Drakth closed in. She triggered her wrist device, sending a silent distress pulse toward the human military. Meanwhile, in a temporary Earth base set up near the crash zone, General Reyes was already watching the pod's beacon. They've landed, Lena confirmed. But they're not alone. Multiple heat signatures moving in fast. Reyes didn't hesitate. Deploy the strike team. Bring our people home. In the forest, the children stumbled into a clearing. That's when they saw it. A strange structure, like a huge glass sphere hovering just above the ground. Inside, floating shapes, Emily gasped. Are those animals? Josh stepped closer. They weren't animals. They were creatures. Some small, some large. All trapped inside glowing orbs. A low hum filled the air. Liam pointed. That one's moving. One of the orbs was pulsing. Inside, a strange silver-scaled creature stared right at Josh. It didn't look hostile. It looked desperate. Something. Inside, Josh said to help it. He touched the orb. The glass-like surface rippled and shattered silently. The creature stepped out, stretching its thin wing-like arms. It bowed its head to Josh, then hissed in a way that somehow felt like gratitude. And then the other orbs began to shake. Emily backed up. Josh, did you do? The orbs burst one by one. Small creatures, large ones. Some with fur, some with scales. Some glowing faintly. They didn't attack. They gathered. Forming a loose circle around the children, it was as if they were waiting for instructions. Far above, the battle in orbit continued. Human interceptors dodged Drakth fire, striking back hard. The Ziralan ship, battered but holding, provided cover fire. But neither side knew what was happening down on Earth. In the forest, Josh realized something there. Following us. Liam grinned nervously, like we're in charge. Emily shook her head. This is crazy. We have to get to the soldiers. But Josh had another thought. If the Drakth are hunting us, maybe these creatures can help fight back. The sound of heavy footsteps snapped them out of the moment. The trees, Drakth soldiers emerged, tall, armored, armed with crackling blades. The lead Drakth pointed at the children. Alive! Josh didn't think. He shouted, now. The creatures moved as one. It was chaos. A glowing beast the size of a horse charged through the Drakth line, scattering them. A winged creature dove from above, knocking weapons from their hands. Small, fast animals darted between legs, tripping them. The Drakth had no idea what was happening. The children ran again, the creatures forming a protective ring around them. Back near the pod, Zero had managed to escape her captors. She was bleeding, but she followed the faint trail the children had left, broken branches, footprints in the mud. When she reached the clearing, she stopped in shock. The children were alive. They weren't alone. Zira stared at the creatures. You freed them? She asked. Josh nodded. They're helping us. Zira's voice was low. Then we might survive this after all. Above the forest, the roar of engines grew louder. Black military helicopters descended, searchlights sweeping. The trees. The strike team hit the ground running, weapons ready. General Reyes himself stepped out of the lead chopper, scanning the area. When he saw the children alive, with Zero and the creatures, his jaw tightened. He raised a hand. Get them. Out of here! But it wasn't over. From deeper in the forest, a massive shape emerged. It was Drakth, but unlike the others, larger, armored in dark plates, carrying a weapon that hummed with lethal energy. The other Drakth stepped aside as it approached the leader. Zira stepped in front of the children. This one will not stop. Not until he has you. Reyes raised his rifle, then we make sure he doesn't. The clearing exploded into gunfire and alien roars. Josh didn't remember deciding to do it. He just saw the Drakth leader aiming at Reyes and ran. One of the creatures, the silver-scaled one, leapt with him, wrapping around the Drakth's arm. The weapon fired harmlessly into the sky. Reyes took the shot. The leader fell. The remaining Drakth scattered into the trees. The creatures slowly backed away into the shadows, disappearing one by one. Only the silver-scaled one stayed a moment. Longer. It looked at Josh, then leapt into the forest without a sound. Reyes knelt in front of the children. "You're safe now." Josh looked over at Zira. She didn't look safe. And she didn't look like she was planning to stay. When the soldiers moved to take her, Reyes held up a hand. "She comes with us. She's the reason they're alive." As the helicopters lifted off, Emily leaned against the window, staring. Down at the dark forest, somewhere down there, creatures they had freed were running wild. Somewhere up there, in the black sky, other ships were still watching. On the Zeralon vessel, Viran received the report. The humans had their young back. The Drakth had been driven off. For now, he turned to his first officer. "It will come for us next." The storm came in fast. Black clouds, cold rain. Wind that screamed across the landing pads of the human base. The helicopters touched down hard, rotors slicing the rain into mist. Soldiers ran forward, shouting over the noise. Inside the lead chopper, Josh, Emily, and Liam sat in silence. They were safe. They should have felt relief. But something didn't feel right. General Reyes was the first to step out. The soldiers moved the children toward a covered walkway. Azira followed, flanked by 2 armed guards. She didn't resist, but her eyes never stopped scanning the shadows. Inside, the base smelled of oil, metal, and recycled air. The walls were bare concrete, the lights too bright, and everywhere. "Soldiers with rifles," Emily whispered. "They're acting like we're dangerous." Josh's stomach tightened. Maybe they don't trust Zira. In the command room, huge screens showed the battle in orbit. The Drakth ships had pulled back, but the Zyralon vessel hovered at the edge of the atmosphere. Lena stood by the screens, frowning. "Sir, the Zyralon ship isn't leaving. They're watching us." Rhea's voice was low. "Keep them in sight. I want to know what they want." That night, the children were given a small room with bunks. Zira was taken somewhere else. Josh pressed his ear to the wall but couldn't hear anything. The rain kept falling. The wind kept howling, and far above in the black sky, the Zyralon ship stayed still. The next morning, Reyes visited them. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're safe now," he said. "We'll get you home soon." Josh asked, "Where's Zira?" Reyes hesitated. "She's being questioned. Standard procedure." Emily's voice was sharp. "Saved us." "Yes," Reyes said slowly. "And she may have other answers we need." In the interrogation room, Zira sat chained to a metal table. Reyes walked in, followed by 2 officers. "You came here knowing the Drakth were near," Reyes said. "Yes. You didn't warn us before they attacked. It would have come whether I warned you or not." Reyes leaned closer. "What do you want with our children?" Zira met his gaze. "We didn't take them. We rescued them." On the Zeralon ship, Viran received a coded transmission. It wasn't from Zira. It was from Earth. "We have her. Send coordinates for exchange." Viran's face hardened. They think they can bargain. That afternoon, Lena came to the children's room. She looked uneasy. "Pack your things," she whispered. "Uck! You're leaving the base?" Josh frowned. "Why?" "Orders from the top," Lena said. "But something about this feels wrong." The transport wasn't a bus or a chopper. It was a dark, windowless truck. 4 soldiers climbed in with them. No one spoke during the long, bumpy ride. Emily sat close to Josh, clutching his hand. Liam just stared at the floor. Hours later, the truck stopped. When the doors opened, the children stepped out into an empty airstrip. At the far end, under the gray sky, a small black shuttle waited. Zira was already there. In chains, 2 soldiers pushed her forward. Josh ran toward her, but a rifle blocked his path. Reyes stepped out from behind the shuttle. His voice was calm. "It's calm. You're going home, kids. But first." We're making a deal. Josh's chest tightened. What kind of deal? Reyes looked up at the clouds. They want her. We give her back. In return, they leave Earth alone.
Us.
Zira's voice was sharp. They won't leave. They'll come for you anyway. Reyes didn't look at her. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Emily's voice broke. She's telling the truth. You can't enough, Reyes snapped. Get on the shuttle. As they were pushed forward, Josh caught sight of movement in the sky. Black shapes. Not helicopters. Not human. The Drakths were coming. The first blast hit the far end of the airstrip, throwing metal and fire into the air. Soldiers scattered, shouting. Zira twisted against her chains, shouting at Josh, "Run! Now!" The Drakth landed in seconds. Sleek black craft opening to release tall warriors with crackling weapons. Reyes shouted orders, but it was too late. The Drakth didn't come to negotiate. It came to take everything. A towering Drakth commander stepped forward. His voice was a growl. Hand over the children, and we'll spare your soldiers. Reyes raised his rifle. Not happening. The commander tilted his head. Then you die. The fight was instant and brutal. Gunfire, plasma bolts, screams. Josh grabbed Liam and Emily, pulling them toward the shuttle, but a Drakth soldier blocked the path. Before it could strike something, silver flashed between them. The silver-scaled creature from the forest, it struck the Drakth hard. Knocking it aside, Zira, still in chains, slammed her shoulder into a guard, grabbing his dropped weapon. She cut the cuffs free and fired into the Drakth line. Josh yelled, "Zira, this way." They ran together toward the shuttle, silver creature leaping ahead to clear the way, but the Drakth commander was faster. He reached the shuttle first, blocking the ramp. "You will come with us," he told Zira, "or they all die." Zira didn't move. The children clung to her. Reyes limped forward, bleeding but still holding his rifle. He aimed at the commander. "This is still our planet," he said. Then he fired. The blast hit the commander square in the chest. He staggered, then fell. The Drakth wavered. And in that moment, the sky split open. The Zerlin ship descended, weapons glowing. Viren's voice thundered from above, "Humans, get aboard now." They didn't have to be told twice. Soldiers, children, and even Reyes ran for the shuttle. Zira grabbed Josh's arm, pulling him up the ramp. The silver creature darted inside at the last second. The shuttle lifted off, racing, toward the looming Zerlon vessel. Below, the Drakth fell back to their ships. The airstrip burned. On board the Zerlon ship, Viren looked over the rescued group. "You have been betrayed by your own," he told Reyes. "The Drakth will not stop. And now, they will come in greater numbers." Reyes didn't argue. He just looked at the children. "Ended, sir." Josh asked quietly, "What happens now?" Zira's voice was grim. "Now, we prepare for war." It started with a shadow. Not in the sky, but across the face of the earth itself. By the time people noticed, the shadow had grown into dozens. Each one, a ship. Each one, Drakth, orbit from the command deck of the Zyrellan vessel. Zira stood at the viewing wall. Below, Earth's blue curve glimmered against the void. Above, the Drakth fleet assembled, black silhouettes with burning red eyes of plasma. Her claws tapped the railing. "They don't come for victory," she said quietly. "They come for extinction." Viren didn't respond. His focus was on the tactical display. The human military channels were already breaking down, shouting voices. Orders, overlapping static. Earth, Washington, D.C. General Reyes had been back on the surface for less than 2 hours. In that time, the city had become a war. Zone. Drick, glowing from the friction of entry. Anti-air guns spat fire into the sky, but for every pod they destroyed, 5 more made it through. Reyes barked into his cum. "Evacuate the east sector. Hold the bridges at all costs." A building shook nearby. Glass rained onto the street. Through the dust, the hulking shapes of Drakth warriors emerged. Tall, armored, weapons humming. A school gym in Ohio. Josh, Emily, and Liam sat huddled with dozens of other kids. The gym had been turned into a shelter, its windows covered with thick metal plates. A volunteer passed out water bottles. "Stay calm," she whispered. "Help is coming." But Emily noticed something strange. The ground was trembling. Not from explosions, but from something walking. Orbit Zeralon War Council, the council chamber was lit by holographic projections of the Earth. Zera stood beside Euron while the other Zeralon captains argued. One slammed a clawed hand on the table. "We must protect our own and withdraw." Another hissed, "If Earth falls, we lose the only foothold in this system." Zera's voice cut through the noise. "If you leave now, the Drakth will follow you home. This isn't just Earth's war. It's yours too." Cincinnati street sirens, gunfire, the smell of burning fuel. Josh, Emily, and Liam had been loaded onto an evacuation bus, old, armored, its windows replaced with steel. The driver kept one hand on the wheel, the other gripping a shotgun. He didn't look back. No one spoke. Then the bus stopped. The road ahead was blocked, not by debris, but by a Drakth walker. It was like a tower with legs bristling with cannons. The driver swore under his breath. "Hold on." He turned the wheel sharply, but the walker's head swiveled toward them. The first shot blew the street apart. The bus tilted sideways, skidding into a row of abandoned cars. Zeralon's ship alarms blared. The Drakth fleet was descending into lower orbit. Less than an hour, the entire planet would be under siege. Viren turned to Zera. "If we deploy ground troops, we'll lose many." "Then deploy me," Zera said. She didn't smile, didn't blink.
Hey.
"This is my fight." Ohio Freeway. Josh crawled out from under his seat, ears ringing. The bus was on its side. Smoke screams. Emily's voice called from somewhere behind him. "Josh?" He found her pinned under a broken seat.
Alima
Was helping her, but his small arms weren't enough. A shadow fell over them. A Drakth soldier crouched at the wreckage, its claws curling. Josh froze. The soldier tilted its head as if curious. Then a silver blur slammed into it. The forest creature, the same one from before, tore into the Drakth with bone-breaking force. Washington, D.C. Reyes stood in the rubble of the Capitol. Smoke covered the sky. Eastern bridges were gone. His cum crackled. "General, they've breached the bunker." He took a long breath. "Then we hold the west until the end." Turning point in orbit, the Zeralon ship's weapons lit up. Blue-white beams slashed into the Drakth fleet, cutting through black holes. But the Drakth kept coming. On the surface, Zera landed in a drop pod near Cincinnati. Her boots hit cracked pavement. All around her, buildings burned. The silver creature appeared from an alley, its muzzle stained with black Drakth blood. Josh, Emily, and Liam were right behind it. Zera didn't ask how. She just said, "Stay close. The siege has only begun." Final image. The Drakth fleet now hung over every major city. The Zeralon vessel fought above, but it was just one ship. Against an armada from space, Earth looked the same. Blue, green, white. But below, it was burning. And in that burning world, small pockets of humans and aliens fought side by side, knowing the truth. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about who would rule the future. Years later, they called it the day the sky cried fire. On that day, no one had names for it. No one had time for history. There was only the sound of the sky breaking, only the feeling that the world had just run out of tomorrow's present. Washington, D.C. General Reyes was bleeding. He didn't know from where there was too much noise, too much smoke. Drakth soldiers swarmed the ruins like black ants. The air stank of ozone and burned metal. Someone yelled, "Fall back!" But there was nowhere left to fall. Future voice, they say, the Drakth fought without fear. That's not true. We saw them hesitate when humans didn't run. When we charged toward them with nothing but rifles, knives, or our own fists. Even monsters understand death. Present Cincinnati street. Zera's boots splashed through puddles of melted asphalt. Josh, Emily, and Liam ran behind her, gasping for air. The silver creature, their strange guardian, darted ahead. Clearing a path through fallen debris, a Drakth walker turned its cannons toward them. Zero raised her weapon. The air shimmered, and the walker exploded in a blossom of blue fire. Srillin, reinforcements had arrived. Future voice, that was the first time we fought together, human and Zrillin. Not as allies. Not yet. More like strangers trapped in the same burning building. Holding the same door shut against the same monster, present orbit the Zrillin ship. Vorn's edge spun through the Drakth's blockade like a blade through silk. Its main cannon fired again and again, carving holes in the dark wall above Earth. But for every Drakth ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Future voice later, they told us that the Zeralon Captain Viran had a choice. Save his crew, or stay and fight with us. He stayed. No one knows why. Baby even he, DIDN, single quotes, present Ohio Freeway the evacuation convoy was down to 3 buses. Children peeked through steel slits in the windows. His eyes wide at the fires on the horizon, Emily whispered to Josh, "Do you think we'll make it?" Josh lied. Yeah. The silver creature's head suddenly jerked toward the tree line. Something big was coming. Present Washington, D.C. Reyes climbed onto the hood of a burned-out tank. His voice, raw from shouting, still carried over the chaos. "They want the city? They'll have to climb over our bodies to take it?" The soldiers roared. And for a moment, even the Drakths seemed to pause. Future voice, this is the part the old soldiers never talk about. How you don't feel like a hero. How you don't think about history books. You think about your family, about whether you'll see the sunrise. And sometimes, present, Cincinnati led the children into a half-collapsed subway tunnel. The walls shook with distant explosions. The silver creature stayed at the entrance, low to the ground, its ears twitching. It growled. Then the tunnel's ceiling cracked. Dust rained down. Drakth drop pods smashed through, scattering fire and smoke. Present orbit Vern S ship took a direct hit. Systems flickered. Hull alarms screamed. Shields at 20%. A crew member shouted, "Keep firing." Viren roared back. He could see Earth's surface now. Black scars spreading across green and blue. Time was running out. Future voice, they say, the war was won by strategy. That's a lie. It was won by desperation, by people and aliens. Doing things they didn't know they could do, because the alternative was nothing. Present Cincinnati subway, the Drakth warrior stepped from the drop pod, its armor glowing red from re-entry. It raised its weapon at Zira. The silver creature lunged and the Drakth caught it midair, slamming it into the wall. The creature's bones cracked. Josh screamed. Zira's eyes went cold. Her weapon fired once. Twice the Drakth fell, smoke curling from its armor. The silver creature whimpered, but it was still alive. Future voicems say the silver guardian was an earth animal. Others think it was something older, something from before we were here. All I know is, without it, those children would have never seen the end of the war. Present. Washington, D.C. Reyes line was collapsing. A Drakth giant smashed through a barricade, sending soldiers flying. Then streaks of blue light rained from the sky. Zeralon drop dash pods dot for the first time all day. The humans were not alone on the ground. Present orbit, the Vorn's Edge made one last run through the Drakth line. Its main cannon overloaded, tearing apart 3 enemy ships before the reactor. Failed in the silence after the blast. Earth's atmosphere glowed with fire. Future voice, we didn't win that day. Not yet, but we didn't lose either. And sometimes, that's the only victory you get. Zira, the children, the silver creature, and a handful of human soldiers emerged from the subway into the burning city. Above them Drakth, ships still blotted. Out the stars, but now in the spaces between those shadows, human and Zeralin ships moved together. The war wasn't over, but for the first time, it felt possible. It began with whispers in the dark. It ends with fire in the sky. The Drake thought Earth would break. They didn't understand. Humans don't break. We burn. We fight. We make the impossible happen. Even when it kills us, present low orbit the Vorn's Edge floated in the shadow of the moon. Half her hull was gone. Her crew was silent, waiting for the order. Captain Viren stood at the bridge window, looking at the blue curve of Earth. Below, cities burned. Above, the Drakth fleet swarmed like a storm of teeth. His cum crackled. A human voice, General Reyes. Captain, it's time. Present ground, since Inatizira ran through fire. Josh and Emily clung to her, their small hands gripping her armor straps. The silver creature limped beside them, growling at the black shapes in the smoke. Overhead, Drakth warship loomed, its cannons turning toward the last evacuation zone. Zira's cum clicked. Rhea's voice. Hold that point. Whatever it takes. Present Washington, D.C. Reyes wiped blood from his face. The last human artillery cannon roared, blasting a Drakth tank into shrapnel. Beside him, Cyrillin warrior reloaded without a word. Human and alien, shoulder to shoulder, Reyes looked at the horizon. Drakth reinforcements were coming. He smiled grimly. Let them. Orbit the final push the Vorn's Edge, and the last 3 human cruisers dove into the Drakth wall. Blazers cut black ships in half. Missiles streaked into the dark, blooming into spheres of fire. A Drakth dreadnought locked onto the Vorn's Edge. Viren didn't turn away, ramming speed. Ground the last Standra, set the children behind a concrete barrier. The silver creature crawled in front of them, teeth bared. Drakth soldiers surged forward. Zira fired until her rifle clicked empty, then drew her knife. A Drakth towered over her, its blade raised. A Zeroan plasma shot tore through its chest before it could strike. Reinforcements had arrived. Orbit. Breaking the chain, the Vorn's Edge slammed into the Drakth dreadnought. The explosion lit space like a second sun. In that light, human ships broke through. For the first time in weeks, Earth's sky was open. Ground silence after the storm, the Drakth began to retreat. Some ran, some fell. Zero collapsed against the barrier. Josh hugged her. Emily stroked the silver creature's fur, was breathing. Barely above them, the Drakth ships burned as they fled into the void. Final scene weeks later, the cities were still scarred. The air still smelled of smoke, but the sky was quiet. Reyes stood at the edge of the ruined capital, watching children play in the rubble. Zero walked by, the silver creature limping at her side. She nodded. He nodded back. No words were needed. Closing. Lin Sit began with missing children. It ended with a world that refused to be taken. The Drakth would remember Earth, not as prey, but as the day the sky finally fell silent. And the humans were still standing. The end.